from Canada in '97, I moved to South Korea for 2.5 years. Then I came to Taiwan, January 2000. I was going to work at a school called Hu Mama. I was meeting Mr. Hu, and there was another man at the table, and I later was told that he was actually a fortune teller.
Hu Baba was very superstitious and wanted to make sure he was hiring a good teacher.
Yeah. So first thing he told him was, this guy's born in the year of the ox, don't hire him.
Cole Fogel here, and today I am with, I'll just let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Tai Ke, Michael Lesser.
Okay, so where are you from originally?
Born in Ottawa, raised in Montreal. So lived in Montreal until I was 23. My mom's side is from Newfoundland, so I'm half Newfie, half Quebecer. Huh. And 23 years old, moved to Asia, and I've been here ever since.
Can you speak French?
I can speak French. When I used to live in Quebec, my French was actually really good. Well, I had a girlfriend for 3 years that really excelled my French. I passed high school French because somebody, thank you Murray, somebody pulled the fire alarm on the day of the exam, so I was like...
So everyone automatically got passed?
Yeah.
Oh man, there are so many times I wish that fire alarm was pulled then. Yeah, I definitely was not a great student back in the junior high school days.
No, me neither, me neither. Yeah, I was in a program actually called Inner Circle. And it was for delinquents and the special head case
What a
kids.
great word, delinquents.
And people like me that just didn't fit in.
Like just you didn't process things in a typical, atypical way?
Yeah, I mean, people with, who were labeled with ADHD or whatever learning disorder, we're supposed to be the hunters. We're the guys who stay up all night and, poke at the fire and, protect.
We're important.
We're important.
That's funny you say poke at the fire, because when I was in Canada recently, and my son, who's so much like me and, thought of it like maybe a little bit ADD or ADHD or whatever, we had a fire outside of our cottage. The grown-ups were literally inside chatting all night, and I looked out, and he was just playing with the fire. I don't mean playing like dangerously. I mean, he had a stick, and he was just keeping the fire going, and it was like 2 hours of just joy for him.
Nice.
And it really gets you thinking, yeah, maybe there are certain types of people who are meant to be more like that, like adventurers and explorers and things like that.
Yeah. And ask me to sit in a very uncomfortable wooden chair for 8 straight hours, listening to some other guy talk about stuff I'm not interested in.
So school was not fun for you growing up?
Nah. I was lucky enough 1 year ago to teach for a year in Canada, and nothing has changed.
What was it like teaching in Canada then? Because it sounds like you didn't enjoy school growing up, so you probably have a different view of school. Do you find yourself wanting to teach in a different way?
Well, I was not like a permanent teacher. I did
a supply teacher?
Yeah, I did 2 different kinds of teaching last year. Supply teaching, so they call you on the day of, or maybe if you're lucky, you get an email the night before.
Right.
So-and-so is sick, can you come in for a day or maybe at max a week?
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed. The other part was long-term substitute. So I did 3 or 4 months. I did grade 9 religion and art.
Oh, interesting.
I actually really enjoyed that. It's also letting the kids go outside and build snowmen and stuff like that. After having lived in Asia for 28 years, it was just cool to see snow and kids playing in the snow and having conversations with my coworkers about shoveling the driveway. It was just very foreign to me, even though it was my own country.
So now that you have recently been in the education system a bit in Canada, and you're familiar with the education system here, you teach here as well?
Yeah, I teach here.
Is there any definitive things that make the education vastly different here to Canada?
Well, Taiwan is heavily test-driven. There's less tests in Canada. And back home in Canada, you get off at 2:30 and then that's it. Everyone goes on with their life. Whereas here, if you're unfortunate, you go to an academy or a bushiban.
They have a lot of school here. I think everyone has the mentality of hurry up and get more information, learn more and keep up with the Joneses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, oh, totally. I agree with you 100%. I saw a movie by Michael Moore. I'm not a huge fan of all his films, but there is one recently I saw called Where to Invade Next.
Oh,
And
interesting.
the portion that I really, really liked was where he went to Finland.
Yeah.
And he examined the education system there. And the basic teaching philosophy in Finland is the happiness of the students.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah, so like no homework until about grade 12. They go to school for about 3 to 4 hours a day. All the kids know like 5 languages. You know, even the math teacher, what's his primary concern? The kids' happiness. So I said, that is what I'm going to do for the rest of my teaching career. So I have no homework for my students.
Is Taiwan the first Asian country that you've lived in your life?
I lived in South Korea and Thailand before Taiwan.
Oh, cool. Okay, so sorry, from Canada you lived...
From Canada in '97, I moved to South Korea for 2.5 years.
Did you learn any Korean while you were there?
I did learn quite a lot. All the Korean I know is from those 2.5 years because, well, I was single, a lot less English in the country at the time.
Yeah.
More time to do language exchanges.
Right, okay.
And
You were teaching while you were there?
I taught for 1 year at a Korean version of a bushiban. They call it a hagwon. So it was just like elementary school, middle school. I hated it. It was one of the worst places I've ever worked.
You mean the kids were not happy, or the management was not nice, or?
You know, a factory. Get the kids in, make some money. The kids were tired, you know, so they came in just really hyper, jumping on chairs.
Which makes it hard to manage.
Yeah, it was really hard to manage. Plus I was 1 year out of university, so I didn't know how to teach yet. I didn't know anything about classroom management, so maybe it was partially my fault. And then I did 6 months in an adult academy, so that was a lot better.
They wanted to be there, obviously.
They wanted to be there.
So from Korea, you then moved to...
I moved to Bangkok.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that must have been a wild country living in Bangkok.
Oh, Bangkok, 1999. It was the extreme wild East.
Wow.
I had a Thai girlfriend, so she brought me to her university town, which was Lopburi. They have temples that are devoted to monkeys. So like hundreds of monkeys living at the temple.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, but they would pull girls' hair, you know, like they were pretty naughty. I was there for approximately 6 weeks. Things didn't work out, so I moved back to Canada for 4 months.
Okay.
And then I came to Taiwan, January 2000.
So what brought you to Taiwan?
Taiwan was, you know, on the map. It was somewhere I hadn't been yet.
Yeah.
A bit of an adventure.
Do you remember the day you arrived, what that was like?
Oh yeah, that was really funny. So I remember I met these 2 people on the airplane. One was a foreigner. She was American, but of strong Russian descent. Like she was, you know, telling me how she celebrated the Russian Christmas at like a different time of year. And I mean, also there was a Taiwanese woman sitting in between us, but she was Taiwanese, but lived in America a long time. So she was quite international. And I kept in touch with those 2. There was a big delay, like I guess, so I got into Taiwan too late to get into Tainan from Kaohsiung. So the Russian-American girl let me stay at her place for the night.
Oh, okay.
And it was really interesting, really awkward. You know, I'm 26 years old and there's this tall, hot Russian
Beautiful
girl,
Russian woman,
blonde.
Okay.
You know, so she's like, oh, you can stay in my bed. And I was like,
wow.
Okay, what's the game now? What do I do? She said, oh, I'm just going to stay here on my sofa and do some lesson plans. And I fell asleep, and she drove me to the train station on her scooter the next day.
She gave you her bed and slept on the sofa.
Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I'm going to get totally lost in this country. Every road looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then she brought me to the train station. I was dragging...
The Kaohsiung train station.
Kaohsiung train station. So I had 2 gigantic suitcases, and I was dragging... Oh, they weren't pull, so I was holding...
You had to carry them? Oh my God.
And I remember I cut my arm on one of the suitcases, so I was bleeding, and no one was helping me except for this guy who was like 90 years old. He helped me carry one of the suitcases to the train, and I was like so thankful. the whole way from Kaohsiung to Tainan, I was like, it just looks so
Like air pollution,
dirty.
you mean? Or
Air pollution,
dust,
graffiti, dust,
yeah.
dirty buildings. And I was like, what did I get myself into?
Well, they were probably also in the process of building the MRT at the time. Kaohsiung was literally a dust ball of a city during that whole MRT
yeah, right.
creation, and it was pretty terrible. And then I remember coming back to Kaohsiung after the MRT, and if you look at, I mean, Kaohsiung today has become a much cleaner city to what it was back in 2000 or in let alone 1999 or whatever. But yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I just brought my students on a field trip to Kaohsiung, and I was blown away. I was like, "This
that's
is
such a great city
completely
now. Yeah.
different
I love
city."
Kaohsiung now. Yeah,
I could see why people love it.
yeah. I mean, I lived in Taichung for many years and never would have considered Kaohsiung. And then I moved here because my wife is from here and her parents are here, and we have children, and we wanted to be near grandpa and grandma. And I was just sold after a few months of here. I was like, no, this is my home. Like it's a bit hot sometimes, but you know, Taiwan is an island, so it makes sense that it's hot. Where were you going on the train?
So I got off at the Tainan train station.
Okay, Tainan. Okay.
Yeah. I came out, and the first thing I saw was that big brown building that everyone sees the first time they come to Tainan or arrive in Tainan, and I was like kind of disgusted.
It's not well kept, is what you're saying.
No, it's not. Yeah. Then I got out of the train station, and then I went to a store, and I just randomly spoke English to this guy, and I was like, I need a phone card. He understood what I was saying.
Oh my God! Remember phone cards?
And then I called one of the coworkers at the school. I was going to work at a school called Hu Mama. So eventually took a taxi over there, and I was meeting Mr. Hu, I should say Hu Papa, at this big table, and there was another man at the table, and I later was told that was his friend, who I found out months later he was actually a fortune teller.
Oh.
And he was there to gauge my energy.
Was he accurate?
No.
Hu Baba was very superstitious and wanted to make sure he was hiring a good teacher.
Yeah. So first thing he told him was, this guy's born in the year of the ox, don't hire him. He lacks energy.
Even though oxes are some of the hardest workers, and a lot of people don't even eat beef in Taiwan because they are farm animals that work on the farms, it should be the opposite then.
Yeah, so 3-4 days later, I met Tennis Joe, because at the time, everyone in Tainan had a nickname.
Tennis Joe.
Tennis Joe.
Because he played tennis.
Played tennis.
And
so Tennis Joe brought me to the big beach house.
The bar, or?
It's a building. It's owned by Grandpa. That was the owner of the house's name, and it's at Huangjing Hai'an, which is the Golden Coast Highway in Tainan.
Cool.
Yeah, so I lived there for like 6 months, and eventually, well, I had to leave the house.
Okay.
Let's just say Joe and I didn't get along. He spayed my 2 dogs.
Spayed them as in took them to a vet.
Took them to a vet.
I thought you meant spayed them himself.
Maybe he's the kind of guy who maybe would.
Oh man.
And he came to me, he's like, you're gonna pay me for spaying them. And I was like, no, I'm not. Goodbye, I'm leaving.
Probably he should have run that by you first.
And they were also like at least a month too young for it.
Oh. All right, so you left that house, and then where did you go from there?
Then I ended up living in my neighbor's empty house. He let me stay there for 4 months rent-free. And it was golden.
Taiwanese neighbor?
Taiwanese neighbor. And he felt really bad for what had happened. He knew about the dog. And so I lived in that house for 4 months, but eventually the local neighbors did not like the fact that I was cohabitating with my Taiwanese girlfriend. Even the police officers were telling her, like, you're a dirty girl. Why are you shacking up with this white boy? Yeah. So I ended up moving in with her aunt. We didn't break up, but I said I kind of had enough of living with your family.
Yeah.
So I moved out on my own. I got a small place, just a 1-bedroom, not even a kitchen, but it was perfect. And I was in Yongkong, like a little community.
I've heard of Yongkong.
Yongkong. Can't say it was quiet.
Any adventures during that time?
Oh, a bad neighbor. It's a scooter punk. a lot of wall kicking, a lot of in Taiwanese or Chinese.
Domestic stuff
shut
going on.
up. Oh yeah, they were fighting too. Like he lived with his girlfriend. I could hear pounding. Oof. So it was just getting too unbearable. So then I moved in with Martin.
A Taiwanese person? Or?
Martin was from Montreal, so we had that good connection.
Canadian dude, yeah.
French-Canadian guy. We got along like brothers.
This is all in Tainan?
All in Tainan.
Oh, so you were in Tainan for a while then, okay.
Yeah, I moved a lot. Probably lived in like 40 places in Taiwan.
Wow. Okay, you might beat me with how many places you've lived in, because I've lived in a lot of places too.
I think I may have lived in over 70 places in my life.
Wow. All right, you definitely beat me. I think I'm in the 20s or 30s.
Oh, okay. That's still a lot.
Still a lot, but not compared to that. Wow. Where did you meet your wife?
That was an interesting story. So 2001, I was about to go home for a summer vacation, but I needed some money, obviously, because going home isn't cheap. So I put up ads around town. She called me, but I got a missed call. And then I ended up calling back, which I rarely do, but I just knew like I had to call this person back. So I called her and we set up a time to meet so I could help her with English. She said, first I have to suss you out to see if like you're a good teacher, if we click. So this was May 25th, her birthday. So I showed up and she was with two friends and she was standing there with her hip out like this, looking at me kind of like with a scowl. And she says, it's my birthday, where are you taking me? And I was like, oh, this chick's cool. So we clicked, but we clicked too much so that I couldn't teach her. She said, we're like old friends. And then we just hit it off, yeah.
And you've been with your wife for how long now?
19 years.
19 years, children or no children?
Married 19 years, but been with her for 24 years. No kids.
So just living the high life still.
In the high life. 2 cats.
I love it.
Mango and Jade, they're our sons.
So hold on, it's 1 o'clock.
Ooh, I definitely have to go.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and see you in the next one.